A group of bandits came across a weak old man in the woods and saw it as an opportunity to extort money from him. To their surprise, a bear came out of nowhere and did something that left him in awe. One evening, after a long day at home, 75-year-old Joseph decided to take a walk through the woods. His little house was right at the edge of the town, making the forest an easy escape. The trees stood tall, and the leaves crunched beneath his shoes as he walked. The birds sang sweetly, creating a calming melody. But even in this serene setting, the elderly man couldn't shake off his worries. Lately, there were talks in town about bandits in the woods. These thieves were sneaky and would steal money from unsuspecting villagers. Despite efforts to catch them, the bandits remained elusive. They made sure no one could see their faces, and they were experts at hiding. With each step, Joseph listened to the soothing sounds of nature, but his mind was filled with concern for his fellow villagers. The woods, once a place of peace, now held a shadow of fear. He couldn't help but imagine what it would be like to encounter the mysterious bandits. Since it had been weeks without news of the elusive bandits, the elderly man felt a glimmer of reassurance. It seemed safe, so he continued his venture into the woods. The usual symphony of nature surrounded him. The chirping of crickets, the gentle rustling of leaves, and the distant hoots of an owl. He found solace in the familiar sounds, a stark contrast to the unsettling rumors that had gripped the village. Satisfied with his walk, Joseph decided it was time to head home. Just as he prepared to leave, a sudden rustling in the nearby bushes caught his attention. His heart skipped a beat and his senses heightened. Curiosity overcoming caution, the man peered into the bushes, and to his surprise, a tiny bear cub emerged from the foliage. Its fur was soft and brown, and it waddled out with an innocence that melted the old man's heart. Relief washed over him as he realized he hadn't stumbled upon the feared bandits, but a creature far less menacing. The bear cub, seemingly unbothered by Joseph's presence, sniffed the air and then gazed up at him with curious eyes. The elderly man couldn't help but smile at the adorable sight. He marveled at the simplicity of the moment, the worries about bandits momentarily forgotten. However, as the initial relief settled, a new worry crept into his mind. Where there was a bear cub, there likely was a protective mother nearby. Anxiety replaced his initial joy as he wondered about the potential encounter with a mama bear. He took a cautious step back, not wanting to startle the little cub or provoke any unwelcome attention from its mother. The bear cub, oblivious to the human's inner turmoil, continued to explore its surroundings, occasionally glancing back at the old man. As the seconds ticked by, Joseph weighed his options. Going back the way he came might lead him closer to the protective mother, but forging a new path through the woods brought its own set of uncertainties. He considered making some noise to alert the mother bear of his presence, hoping to avoid any surprise encounters. However, he soon dismissed the idea, fearing that it might agitate the protective mama bear. Unfortunately, as the bear cub moved further, it got entangled in one of the bushes. Its distressed whimpers pierced the air, and Joseph's heart sank at the sight of the struggling creature. Without a second thought, the elderly man sprang into action. His concern for the little explorer overpowered any reservations. With careful and gentle movements, the man approached the distressed bear cub, assessing the situation to avoid causing any harm. The bush's branches held onto the cub like an unwelcome embrace, and Joseph delicately began the process of freeing the tiny creature. His weathered hands worked skillfully, untangling the branches and liberating the cub from its leafy confinement. Relief washed over both Joseph and the bear cub as the struggling ceased. The little explorer, now free, scampered away to continue its exploration. Lost in the joy of the moment, Joseph failed to notice the subtle rustling growing closer. His focus on the bear cub became a distraction, and the woods, once a place of both serenity and surprise, now concealed an imminent threat. Suddenly, the man found himself surrounded by three men in strange, unfamiliar masks concealing their faces. The old man's heart raced as the unexpected encounter unfolded. The men menacingly demanded he hand over his money, brandishing veiled threats that sent shivers down the elderly man's spine. Unwilling to escalate the situation, Joseph relinquished the little money he had on him, hoping it would satisfy their demands and they would leave him be. However, the masked men were seemingly dissatisfied and suspected he was hiding more from them. Their threats escalated, creating an atmosphere of tension that hung thick in the moonlit woods. Now faced with a perilous situation, he attempted to reason with the men, explaining that he had given them all he had. The bear cub, sensing the shift in energy, retreated into the shadows, leaving Joseph alone with the masked strangers. Despite his plea, the men remained unconvinced, their skepticism evident in their harsh gestures and demanding tone. One of them, growing increasingly agitated, pulled out a gun and waved it menacingly in Joseph's direction. Fear gripped the elderly man as the cold metal of the firearm glinted in the moonlight. As Joseph stood there, he instinctively scanned the surroundings for the bear cub that had accompanied him just moments ago. At first, the little creature was nowhere to be seen, and a sense of worry gripped the elderly man. However, relief washed over him as he spotted the cub crouched in nearby bushes, as if it had sensed the danger and sought refuge. Eager to assert the seriousness of his threats, the masked man holding the gun issued a deafening shot into the air. The sudden explosion of sound echoed through the quiet woods, scattering birds into the sky and sending little animals scurrying for cover. Yet, unknown to the bandits, these were not the only creatures alarmed by the gunshot. In the bushes, the bear cub trembled at the startling noise. The once curious animal now sought the comfort of the shadows. However, the commotion had reached more than just the woodland inhabitants. Not far away, the mother bear was jolted by the unmistakable sound of danger. Driven by her maternal instincts, the bear traced the source of the gunshot, her powerful limbs carrying her swiftly through the dense foliage. As she approached the clearing where the bandit stood, panic gripped her as she caught sight of her cub hiding in the bushes. A surge of rage and protective instincts consumed her as she processed the threat posed by the man wielding a gun. Still reeling from the prior encounter, the elderly man watched in both awe and terror as the massive bear charged towards the man. The bandit suddenly found himself facing a force of nature that dwarfed his human intimidation. The bear, her eyes filled with fury, closed the distance with remarkable speed. The remaining bandits, taken aback by the sudden turn of events, fumbled to react to the approaching beast. Before anyone could fully comprehend the unfolding scene, the mother bear lunged at the man with the gun. Her massive paw swiped through the air, connecting with a force that sent him sprawling to the ground. The other bandits, witnessing their comrade being overpowered by an enraged bear, abandoned their pursuit of Joseph and fled in sheer panic. The once menacing trio now found themselves desperately attempting to evade the fury of nature they had unwittingly unleashed. The bear continued to defend her cub. Her growls reverberated through the clearing, a primal declaration of maternal protection. The wounded bandit, disoriented and realizing the dire predicament he was in, attempted to crawl away and fire his gun again, but the relentless bear pursued him with a determination that spoke of an unyielding commitment to her offspring. He only managed to escape her thanks to his companions, who created a quick diversion by shouting from the bushes. Stunned by the sudden turn of events, Joseph stood frozen in place, his eyes wide with a mixture of awe and disbelief. As the bear concluded her defense, she turned towards the old man, who braced himself for what seemed an inevitable confrontation. The massive creature approached him with measured steps, her powerful presence casting a shadow over the elderly man. In that tense moment, Joseph resigned himself, awaiting the first blow from the bear's giant paw. To his surprise, instead of aggression, the bear sniffed him curiously. The gentle exploration was a stark contrast to the fierce display witnessed just moments ago. Joseph watched in awe as the bear, satisfied that he posed no threat, turned away. The mother bear gently picked up her cub in her mouth, cradling the small creature with a tenderness that belied her earlier ferocity. With her maternal duty fulfilled, the formidable duo embarked on their way, disappearing into the depths of the woods. The moonlit clearing, once filled with chaos, returned to a serene haven, the echoes of the bear's presence gradually fading. Joseph, left standing alone in the quiet aftermath, took a moment to collect his thoughts. He couldn't shake the image of the protective bear charging towards the man with the gun. The primal intensity of the scene lingered, etched into his memory. It was in that moment of reflection that he noticed a subtle change in the atmosphere. He turned towards the spot where the bear and her cub had vanished into the depths of the woods. However, as he approached the area, a sudden rustling caught his attention. His eyes widened as he witnessed a sight he hadn't expected: the protective mother bear lying on the ground, seemingly weakened. A surge of concern gripped Joseph as he noticed a patch of fur near the bear's side stained with a dark hue. In the struggle, the bandit had fired a gunshot that had grazed the mama bear. Instinctively, the elderly man approached the injured bear with a mixture of caution and empathy. He could sense her vulnerability, a stark contrast to the fierce protector she had been just moments ago. Determined to help, the man gently inched closer. He spoke in hushed, comforting tones, realizing that, despite her formidable size, the creature before him was vulnerable and in pain. But he knew he couldn't do anything to help her now. He needed medical supplies. So he raced to the village as fast as his frail body could carry him. Surprisingly, he met a band of villagers at the edge of the forest looking for him. His absence hadn't gone unnoticed, and concerned villagers had gathered to search for him. With urgency in his voice, the man explained the situation to the villagers. Among them was an elderly healer, known around town for his wisdom and knowledge of natural remedies. Without hesitation, the villagers rallied together to accompany Joseph back to the woods, driven by a shared desire to help the wounded guardian of the forest. As they reached the clearing, the healer carefully examined the bear's wound. Joseph watched anxiously, hoping the injury was not as dire as it seemed. The man reassured the concerned onlookers that the wound was a surface one, painful but not life-threatening. Working swiftly, yet with a gentle touch, the village healer applied natural remedies to stop the bleeding. The wounded area was cleansed, and a poultice made from local herbs was skillfully applied to aid in the healing process. As the remedies took effect, the bear seemed to relax and slowly left the clearing, retreating into the depth of the woods with her cub. The village, once haunted by the fear of bandits, found themselves united by a shared commitment to preserving the delicate balance between humanity and the wild. In the days that followed, Joseph continued to visit the bear. She was still hanging around the same spot, probably because she knew she could find her healer around there if she looked. He brought food and water, tending to the creature that had risked everything to protect her cub and him by extension. On the third day of Joseph's visits, he found the bear gone from the familiar spot. A mix of relief and concern washed over him as he scanned the surroundings. It was then that he noticed a trail of fresh paw prints leading deeper into the woods. The bear, strengthened by the care she received, had chosen to move on, resuming her place in the vast expanse of nature. With the bear and her cub gone, he turned toward the distant village lights, a witness to the remarkable events that unfolded in the heart of the woods. The walk that started with worry and bandit threats had transformed into a journey of awe and unexpected alliances with the wild. Eager to share the astonishing tale with more than just a handful of men, the man hurried to the next town over. His steps, now infused with both excitement and relief, carried him towards the familiar faces of the community. The news of the encounter spread like wildfire, capturing the imagination of the villagers who, until that night, had lived under the looming shadow of the mysterious bandits. From that day onwards, the bandits became a distant memory, their threat overshadowed by the unlikely heroes of the woods, the protective mother bear and her cub. The village found solace in the knowledge that nature, in its untamed beauty, had intervened in the most astonishing way. The tale of the bear's intervention became a legend in the nearby villages, passed down through generations as a reminder of the delicate dance between humanity and the wild. The once feared woods, now adorned with the echoes of an unforgettable night, transformed into a symbol of resilience and the unpredictable ways in which nature asserts its dominance. And, most importantly, Joseph resumed his long walks with the knowledge that he had friends in the woods ready to defend him. What an amazing story! Thanks to the overprotective bear, a whole village was saved from the immense danger that threatened them. Have you ever been robbed? How would you react if a wild bear defended you? Share your thoughts and comments below. Thank you for watching, and see you in our next incredible story.